Turks, Cenk, Uygur, Jordan Yule with you guys. There's a poll in today's show that is, even for Trump, shocking. So the degree to which Americans have become disillusioned with him is, well, almost immeasurable, except for the fact that it is. We measured it and it's significant. The only people who seem to dislike him more are Canadians. We're gonna get to that in a minute. And on top of that, we have one of the most, I don't know if horrifying is the right word, but it's close to the right word. Piece of footage of a protester being attacked. Should the anti-Semitism task force be on top of this? Well, we're gonna find out a little bit later in the program. Ro Khanna joins us a little bit later in the program. He's gonna launch something bold, and he has a great attitude towards the Pentagon and Elon Musk that I want to share with you that he did in hearings earlier today. So he's gonna be on the show in just a little bit. And then on top of that, of course, for the members at the end of the show, Operation Joy. And today in Operation Joy, I'm gonna talk about how we are magical creatures. Okay, so that's fun for everybody. You'll enjoy the magic that we have. So why? Because we do a news show, of course. Okay, so Jordan Yule is not only at Rebel HQ, where he dominates and shines, but he's also on one of the hosts of the Insurgents podcast, and every once in a while will battle me, so that's fun. That's fun for everybody. Love an exchange of ideas. All right, so Jordan, on this first one, we certainly agree. Tell me about Canada.
Well, take a look at this.
I think who I voted for would be the best to take care of Trump, because Trump is, I'm sorry to say, an ass, and he shouldn't even be president of the United States. But because he is, we need a strong person so that we could stand strong.
Apparently, most Canadian voters agree with that iconic woman that CNN interviewed yesterday, because Mark Carney and the Liberal Party came from behind to defeat conservative Pierre Poilievre in Canada's election yesterday. Just months ago, the Liberal Party was in terrible shape, and all signs pointed to a conservative victory after Justin Trudeau's ouster. You could see that here. The Liberals were 20 to 30 percentage points behind in surveys conducted in January, before taking the lead in mid-March. But thanks in large part to Trump's attacks on Canada, including his threats to make Canada the 51st state, and his tariff policies, the Liberals managed to turn it around. Mark Carney, a former banker, focused heavily on Donald Trump in his campaign and doubled down on that message of what he calls, quote, American betrayal during his victory speech last night. Take a look.
As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. We are once again at one of those hinge moments of history. Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over.
Despite the victory, Liberals still face major challenges because elections work a little different in Canada relative to the US. Voters don't cast a ballot for a prime minister in the same way we vote for a president, for instance. Instead, the party that wins the most seats in parliament typically forms a government, and its leader becomes the prime minister. As of right now, with 99% of the results in, Carney's Liberals are leading with 168 seats to Conservatives' 144. But the Liberals would need 172 to capture a majority in Parliament. Without the majority, Carney will need the support of a smaller party in Parliament to implement his agenda. For Pierre Poilievre, who adopted the Trump-inspired slogan, quote, Canada first, yesterday's elections didn't just mean he won't become prime minister, He also lost his seat in the House of Commons. You can see the results here. Ousted by Bruce Fanjoy, Liberal, by 5 points. The Liberal candidate, Bruce Fanjoy, a community volunteer who was initially considered a long shot, won the race with 51% of the vote share. So, Cenk, it's not just that conservatives didn't don't form the government now. Pierre Poilievre is gone. He seemed poised for the last couple of years to become prime minister. What do you make of these results?
All right, I'm gonna give first word to one of our members on Twitch. SICP44 wrote in, the blue wave starts with a red maple leaf. Let's go. So that blue wave started very early, but it's true across the world. And Jordan, that goes to answering your question. It's unprecedented the amount of damage that Donald Trump has done to conservatives worldwide in 100 days. So as I teased in the beginning of the show, we're gonna tell you a little bit later, and obviously watch the show every day live, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, catch all of it. We're gonna tell you a little bit later about a disastrous poll for Trump. So now he's gotta do a major comeback, and the Republicans have to do a major comeback, even though the elections for midterms is over a year and a half from now. They're in such a big hole here in America. But look at this stunning results in Canada. He turned around 25 points just by being flagrantly in favor of conservatives. The people of Canada were like, ugh, we don't want that. So we want somebody to fight against this guy. And I mean, for the liberals in Canada and for the left overall in the world, in a lot of ways, Trump's a huge gift. I mean, he's a disaster here at home with all of his authoritarian tendencies, but he's uniting there's so many upsides and downsides. The upside is he's hurting the right wing all across the world. Their chances of winning, their chances of getting power. And he seems weirdly gleeful about it because he's a child. He doesn't know the consequences of his actions. He just likes to play with things and own things and smash things. And so he just smashed Canada's Conservative Party, not their Liberal Party. He just smashed the living crap out of their Conservative Party in a tiny window of time, in 1 to 2 months. Moving 25 points is unbelievable. And you saw it not just in the overall election, but you saw it even with the conservative leader's own race, where he lost his own race. And you saw that there was a 25-point swing in that race and loses to someone who was not well known before. So that woman that we showed you at the top, I mean, number one, she's already gone viral. And she's gone viral because she's so perfectly Canadian, right? She says, I'm sorry, before calling Trump an a-hole, right? But what folks are saying online is, even like Trump's such a jerk that he's even gotten the Canadians to be impolite, right? And they were very, very impolite to the right wing in Canada. So this is what I keep emphasizing. I don't know if anyone will care. I mean, it's hard to get anybody on either side to listen to sense. But if you're a right winger, you should be more mad at Trump. Like, how does it help you to destroy conservatives all across the world by making conservatism seem not rational and sane and sensible and the thing that helps the economy and the thing that helps safety, like the type of brand that they want to build for conservatives throughout the world? Instead, he's now made the brand wannabe authoritarians will trample on whatever laws and customs and rules and constitutions that you have. So watch out, if you elect a guy like Trump, he might try to destroy your country. And now the other downside for us here in America is, and unite the world against us. I mean, look at what he's saying there, the new prime minister. He's saying that, no, that's it, we're done with America. Like this alliance, it's too, a Democrat gets in, we're on good terms. Trump gets in, all of a sudden we're the enemy, or he's gonna invade us, or he's gonna make us a state. So it's extremism when he doesn't, follow the court orders and the Constitution, et cetera, at home. But it's extremism abroad with the tariffs that were so gigantic and so global that they united the world against us. But on top of everything else, when he gratuitously, for no reason, nothing productive at all, attacks allies, Well, then allies go, as this prime minister is, saying, well, I guess I'm gonna have to go to European Union, I'm gonna have to go to others in the world to find allies, both politically and economically, and we're all gonna have to unite to work around America. Now, how did that help us? And if you're a right winger out there, you're like, no, Trump is my God, and it's this clever strategy. All right, keep stretching, as my English teacher used to say when I used to try to come up with outlandish metaphors. Stretch, you're stretching, Uygur, okay? So in this case, they're like, no, Trump meant it because if they elect a liberal instead of a conservative, then Canada will become weaker and then it'll be easier for us to take them over. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, oh yeah, and Dr. Evil has a great plan with sharks with laser beams on their heads. But in the rational world, this doesn't help America, and it definitely doesn't help conservatives across the world or here in America. So you keep playing these games and see how it turns out. So, I mean, we originally named Damage Report for every morning, at least here on the West Coast, John would get up in the first Trump term and tell you the damage report. And so check him out at 10 a.m. West Coast, 1 o'clock East Coast when he's live on YouTube, Damage Report. Because yeah, you're gonna need a damage report every morning. And at this point, conservatives are gonna need one more than the rest of us.
What's so interesting to me about this, you talk about the global implications of Trump and his brand of kind of that hollow right-wing populism. You've seen other world leaders try to emulate that style, some to some success or varying success, but others, it's totally backfired for them. And that's what's so interesting to me here about Poilievre. He was down to even cribbing the slogans, Canada first. And for a while it was working. But when reminded of what a Trump administration looks like, maybe it's recency bias, but also people just don't have long-term memories, short attention spans. He was poised again to be prime minister over the past couple of years. And then you just look at that data that we showed you at the top of the story. It's remarkable. Part of that also seems to be NDP or potential NDP voters coalescing behind liberals just to make sure that conservatives cannot form a government there, just to ensure that Poilievre is not their prime minister. And Jagmeet Singh has led NDP, which is more of like the left-wing party in Canada, despite there are many criticisms from progressives and lefties in Canada about NDP, but still, he's resigning now as the leader because they suffered such a quote crushing defeat and they lost several seats. Kind of feel bad for him. Seems like a little bit of a wrong place at the wrong time thing because they needed to coalesce around these liberal candidates to make sure that Poilievre remained out of the prime minister's seat. But still, despite that, Trump is relishing in the fact that he caused this. In an interview with The Atlantic that published yesterday, he said, until I came along, remember that the conservative was leading by 25 points. And The Atlantic reporter Ashley Parker said, it's true. Trump then said, then I was disliked by enough of the Canadians that I've thrown the election into a close call, right? I don't even know if it's a close call, but the conservative, they didn't like Governor Trudeau too much, and I would call him Governor Trudeau, but he wasn't fond of that. And he also doubled down on his vision for Canada. Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, you seriously want them to become a state? Trump, I think it would be great. Do you want an ally here? Because now you've got someone who's going to offer stiff opposition in Mark Carney. And while he's not the progressive or lefty candidate or figure that some people might want, he seems well equipped to take on Trump, especially on issues of trade. Cenk, what do you think of Trump relishing in the fact that he caused the conservatives to lose?
I get it. Here's why he thinks that way, which makes no sense to other human beings who tend to be a little bit more rational. He thinks me. I make difference. I smash and then it gets smashed. Me make difference. The whole world talk about me. Trump, 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 Trump. And that's the only thing he cares about. If you said to him, hey, you're not relevant in the Canadian elections, but your allies win, or you're super relevant and everyone is talking about you and you caused your allies to lose, that's a no-brainer for him. We'd be like, oh yeah, talk about me and now my allies lose. Why do I care about my allies? What do I need allies in Canada for? Okay, and are they giving me money like my allies in Saudi Arabia and Israel and all these other places? No, they're not gonna be, okay, then they're no allies of mine. Who cares? Me, Trump, 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 Trump. So listen, he named 3 casinos in the same city, Atlantic City, after himself. And everybody said, you're gonna cannibalize those casinos. He's like, I know. One of his executives literally said, it's because he liked to see his name all over the city. Trump, 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 right? And then you know what happened? Bankrupt, bankrupt, bankrupt. And so that's what he's doing to his allies now. They're all closed down for business because this buffoon got involved. So, hey, keep going that way. Well, again, I'm obsessed with the woman that we showed you in the beginning. She's like the new queen of Canada, slay queen, okay? So, but the real slayer here, the conservative slayer, is Donald J. Trump. So everybody's in their own bubbles and you could all pretend anything you like, but elections are real and they have consequences. The thing I'm worried about is what we asked about in the poll on the live chat. So we asked, will America's relationship with Canada ever be repaired? And look, my instinct and great desire is that yes, it can be repaired and it should be repaired. I mean, come on. I mean, God, I can't get over it because how do you piss off Canada? How do you make an enemy out of Canada? I mean, they make Switzerland look hostile. And somehow you manage to get them to all hate you? I'm not sure a Canadian has ever hated anything before. And now they hate Trump, but I'm also worried they hate us. And the thing that really resonated with me in a way that's unfortunate, and I'm glad you guys are optimistic that it can be repaired. And I love that optimism and I share that. Be part of the show live every day. But I'm worried about what he said that, hey, we can't rely on America anymore because it swings back and forth too much. And every once in a while, you guys are like the madman, right? I'm worried about that. We've got to get back to stability. We can do populism. We can do the right kind of populism that actually delivers for the average American without making enemies of the whole world. That's gratuitous, there's no need for it. Without destroying our own constitution and our own alliances, there's no need for it. I don't know why, if you're a populist, you would want that in any way, shape, or form other than weirdo aggro hostility. So here we are, and that aggro hostility boomerang back on conservatives and cost them leadership in Canada. So I'm glad it did, and to our friends in Canada, don't worry, most of us in America still love you. You're our brothers and sisters. We're gonna get back together. Just give us 3 3/4 years. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back on the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. We got a great interview for you guys. First, let me do my usual. City Wit and Barry Turk, thank you for joining, appreciate it. You guys are awesome. All right, joining me now is Ro Khanna. He is one of the congressmen that is an actual progressive, was a co-chair of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign. And now a member of Rebellion PAC, endorsed by Rebellion PAC. Congressman Khanna, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, Ro, before we talk, I want to show the audience what you did earlier today in a congressional hearing. Let's watch that and then we'll ask you about it.
I rise in support of this amendment that we should actually have a plan to get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse in the Pentagon before we allocate more funds. I'd like to see where is Elon Musk? Where is Elon Musk? Because we heard from Elon Musk that $20 to $30 billion just disappear in the Pentagon. We heard from Elon Musk that cost plus contracting is a gravy train. We heard from Elon Musk that the F-35s were the worst use of military expenditure that he knew in world history. We heard from Elon Musk that he was going to cut the defense budget. And what happened? We're adding $150 billion to the defense budget. I used to speak years ago that one day the defense budget is going to get over $1 trillion. People thought I was exaggerating. Guess what? The defense budget is now going to get over $1 trillion. And this time I may not be the lone no vote on this committee. People are wondering what is happening when you can't get the world's richest person to get the Pentagon to actually be accountable. So, Mr. Chairman, my view is that if DOGE has any seriousness, if they have any sense of actually cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, they would look at the Pentagon budget and bring it down before we add another $150 billion to that budget.
All right, that's what I like to see in Congress. All right, Representative Khanna, tell us about that hearing. What was it about? And I think I said on X that they're going to add $150 billion to the Pentagon, and this was now a little back, 1 or 2 weeks ago. And Grok was like, no, I think maybe they're going to add like $100 billion. But it sounds like I was more right than Grok. I don't know. So tell us all about it.
You're right. I mean, look, they were supposed to cut the Pentagon budget. It's about $860 billion. They were talking about cuts. Even Hegseth was saying, let's do 8% cuts. Musk was saying, we're going to cut hundreds of billions of dollars. And it turns out instead of cutting, they're actually adding $150 billion. First time in American history that we will have a defense budget over $1 trillion. It is outrageous. And they're cutting food from kids. They're cutting public education. They're cutting Medicaid to finance this. What happened to DOGE? I mean, when Musk first got there, he was talking about taking on the Pentagon budget. That was his first sacred cow that he was going to take on, and none of it has been addressed.
You know, that's interesting because, look, there's no question. I was there. The right-wing shows all said, "Yeah, let's cut the Pentagon." They loved it all the way through to Fox News and Lauren Graham, etc.
Yeah.
So now, when you ask your Republican colleagues, "What happened? I thought you guys said you wanted to cut the Pentagon. Why are you adding to it?" Do any of them have an answer?
They're silent. I mean, look, the ones on the Armed Services Committee, they're the defense hawks, more of them, and they're the ones who always wanted it. But there was the Freedom Caucus, there was the Laura Ingraham, frankly, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a lot of the people who are more libertarian. They said we can't have this kind of deficit spending, and the biggest cause of it, they know, is defense. It's the biggest item in discretionary spending. And so they insisted they were going to cut it. Elon insisted he was going to cut it. Laura Ingraham talked about cuts. Donald Trump on the campaign trail talked about cuts. But when it comes to shove, they're increasing it more than any modern president.
By the way, also Tim Pool, Patrick Bet-David, so many of the right-wing hosts said, yeah, cut. And now they're adding $150 billion. So I love that you're holding them accountable there. So let's talk a little bit about populism, because there's, you're a populist. Trump claims to be a populist, although it's an ironic kind of populism when you think corporate tax cuts are populist. I'm pretty sure that's not in any definition. But you talk about rebuilding manufacturing in America. You talk about economic patriotism. So what does that mean to you? And can you do that kind of populism without having the weirdo, radical, authoritarian things that Trump attaches to it?
Absolutely. Populism is pretty simple. It means making sure that we have an agenda that helps people who are working in middle class, paid family leave, childcare that is $10 a day, Medicare for all, some kind of health care that from the day you're born, making sure you can afford a house, that Wall Street isn't buying up your homes. I mean, these are a lot of things the Rebellion PAC is talking about, making sure billionaires don't get to decide our elections, that you abolish super PACs, get the money out of politics. But it also means that we understand a modern economy, that to build modern factories, you're going to need federal financing. You're going to need to develop a federal workforce. You're going to need the government to help buy, to create a stable demand signal. And what the Democratic Party should be is running on what I call a new economic patriotism, a real economic vision of how we're going to build new industry, build new economic jobs, and an anti-corruption agenda, as a lot of the Rebellion PAC has, and a lot of a working class agenda, helping improve life for ordinary Americans. That's populism. It's not just bluster.
Yeah, and it's not just opposing Trump for opposition's sake, and it's not just, hey, he's a bad guy. It's something constructive. It's something that you're offering the country. And so how about taking it to other members in Congress? So you mentioned, some of the pillars of populism, and you mentioned in the context of Rebellion PAC, et cetera. And so there's the populist plank, and those are the things that you talked about there: anti-war, money out of politics, lower drug prices, housing prices, et cetera. Can you take that to other members in the House and see if we can get that to be accepted by the majority of the Democratic Party?
I am. I'm going to be taking those 6 points. I mean, lower drug prices are central to helping relieve Americans and Medicare costs. I heard Dr. Oz on Chris Cuomo yesterday talking about all the things he was going to do to cut Medicare fraud, but then he didn't mention that he would negotiate prescription drugs. That's the biggest part of the cost. He didn't mention they would take on Medicare Advantage, that is having their patients seem sicker than they are. He didn't mention that he was going to take on the hospitals that are charging 3 times as much for facility fees than if you go and get the same procedure at a clinic. And so these policy planks of negotiating on prescription drugs are popular. That actually save cost, and the whole Democratic caucus should be on them. But I've already started to reach out to some of the members to see how many populists we can really get.
All right, terrific. And so, when they add to the Pentagon, instead of cutting it, it puts a lie to their populism. And they're aiding and abetting pork barrel politics in the Defense Department, which is where most of it is. But your point about Medicare and the drug prices puts a bigger lie to their fake populism. Because what kind of populists say, hey, we should let drug companies and big pharma set prices for you? And by the way, we shouldn't have a free market. We shouldn't have competition. We shouldn't have capitalism. Drug companies should be able to set any prices they like and make the American people pay for it. So the thing that's actually blocking them, Representative Khanna, is the actual donor class, isn't it? Because it's not like they think it's a conservative position or a right-wing position or a populist position or any of the other things they call themselves. It's indefensible to be against the free market setting prices. So is there anything else that they can hang their hat on, or does that issue alone prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are not at all populist and that they're serving the donor class?
It's the donor class, it's the big pharma companies, it's the lobbyists. There are far more lobbyists around Congress for big pharma than there are members of Congress. And the reality is that American people are paying more than any other country in the world. And they have these protections in the form of patents. They get hundreds of these patents on the same drug, and they get to basically fleece the American people instead of having generic competition. And a lot of times what they're taking is the research done by American taxpayer dollars at the NIH or at universities. Now, should they make a profit? Absolutely. But should they be able to make the kind of obscene profits that they are now, basically setting their own prices? No.
Yeah, setting your own prices is not a thing. I mean, we invented it here. The lobbyists invented it and the politicians went along with it. It's insanity. That's never been heard of in history, where you say, you have to pay me a price and you don't have a choice. I mean, can I not?
Yeah, I mean, look at it. The pharmacy benefit managers basically set what drugs you get to have on a formulary, and they get to set the price, and they get a rebate in doing so, and they're the ones who get to determine whether your drug is authorized or not, and basically how much you're going to pay for it. And what we're saying is let Medicare negotiate it so that they don't have the kind of leverage they do, and the Republicans keep opposing it. And so it's a false populism. It's a populism that is based on grievance and anger, and obviously there is a lot of grievance and anger in this country, but it's not based on solutions. And what I think the Democrats have to offer is a constructive populism, a populism that says this is actually going to improve the lives for people.
See, that's a thing you could build off of. It's one thing to say the other guy is bad, which he most certainly is. It's another thing to say, hey, we have a constructive solution. We can rebuild this country. We could do it the right way. So along those lines, I mean, again, you show leadership. You're the first to join Rebellion PAC. And now we've got other candidates running in some purple and red districts. So can you go to places like North Carolina and other places where there's purple and red districts and rally fellow candidates to fight for real economic populism and bringing back the Democratic Party to its roots all across the country?
Absolutely. I've done 5 town halls in red districts already, 3 of them in rural California, Bakersfield, Norco, and also in Anaheim, and then 1 in rural Nebraska, 1 in New Jersey. And there are hundreds, and in some cases thousands of people showing up at these town halls. And I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm excited about some of the Rebellion PAC candidates who also share a economic populist and anti-corruption message. That's what it's going to take to rebuild not just our party, but our country.
All right, that's it. We have a constructive solution. First one on the board. I've seen a lot of folks complaining and criticizing, in which they have every right to do, and it makes sense certainly in this context. But on top of that, here's Ro Khanna offering something that could actually rebuild the Democratic Party into the party of FDR. Representative Khanna, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your intellectual leadership and your organizing leadership, Cenk. And I think the TYT viewer network is what it's going to take to build this party, and this is our chance.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Representative Khanna. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have more news for you guys, including a shocking scene in New York of a woman being attacked by a mob, and it's over the issue of Israel and Gaza. And then the poll that I promised you earlier in the show. I've never seen a poll this harsh against the president. We'll explain when we come back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys, and Divine Dimension, who just hit that beautiful join button below, let alone James Kaiser, who upgraded through the same join button. James, really appreciate that. It makes a big difference when you upgrade, and that allows us to keep prices low for everyone so that folks can afford it, gets you all the great content, and it shows support for the community, and we appreciate that deeply. All right, Jordan, what's the next story?
Cenk, there's some horrifying footage out of New York. New York police are now investigating the grotesque harassment a Brooklyn woman faced at the hands of a group of pro-Israeli Orthodox Jewish men who were counter-protesting those demonstrating against Itamar Ben-Gvir's Brooklyn appearance. But here's the kicker. She wasn't even protesting. She was just an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. Cenk, just based on this footage alone, what's your initial thoughts here?
Well, I'm sure that they're getting an anti something or other task force ready to combat this, because that's worse than anything we saw on a college campus, where they surround a person, they throw things at her, and as Jordan's going to tell you the details in a second, threatening to rape her, etc. So will there be congressional hearings? Will any of the people there be investigated to find out if they're citizens or not? Are they on a visa? Are they resident aliens? Should we arrest them, deport them? Oh no, none of that will happen. None of that will happen. In fact, as this story unwinds, you're gonna see that some of the cops saw all of this happening and went, yeah, but they have privilege and you don't. So you're gonna have to sit there and take it. And after we go through this story, I'm gonna tell you an amazing story where I had something similar happen to me in a very different context. So I know exactly what that woman went through and the terror that happens when you face a mob like that. We'll get to all that, but Jordan, tell us more about this.
Yeah, let's get back into some of these details. The incident last Thursday occurred after pro-Palestinian activists had reportedly gathered to demonstrate against the visit of Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir at the Chabad Lubavitch world headquarters in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where they were met with Orthodox Jewish counter-protesters, according to the Associated Press. In one video posted online, a woman with a blue and white scarf covering part of her face is seen walking away from a crowd of what appears to be mostly Orthodox Jewish men as they repeatedly chant in her direction, call her racial slurs, and hurl at least one object towards her. Let's watch another video taken from the woman's perspective.
There's some weird Palestinian. Is that you? You want someone to bend you over and rape you like they're doing to the Jews in Palestine? You're trying to think You're a waste of semen.
And that is before things got bad, apparently. Now, the woman has not been named, but she told CNN that she wasn't even a protester. She just lived in the neighborhood and went out to see what was happening after hearing helicopters. There were no protesters left by the time I got there, but there were just like tons, like hundreds of Orthodox Jewish people in the street and on the sidewalk, she said. Then some people near me began filming, and I pulled a scarf over my face because I didn't want to be filmed by anybody, she said, adding that putting the scarf on appeared to escalate things as a woman nearby began screaming. And as soon as she started screaming at me, this group of 100 men came almost immediately and encircled me. They were threatening me, threatening to rape me. They were just shouting really disgusting, vile insults. And while eventually a single police officer escorted her out of the situation to safety, they didn't do anything at first. The police did not do anything to intervene. They literally just stared straight ahead as this was happening, just willfully ignoring the crime that was happening. I felt sheer terror. I realized at that point that I couldn't lead this mob of men to my home. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. I was just terrified. I'm afraid to move around the neighborhood where I've lived for a decade. It doesn't seem like anyone in any position of power really cares. While initially reluctant to file a police report, the woman has since released a statement demanding an immediate hate crimes investigation and action from the city and state officials, according to CNN. And at the same time, Mayor Eric Adams announced that police are investigating multiple incidents stemming from the protests that night. A police spokesperson told AP News that so far 1 person has been arrested and 5 others have been issued summons. But it's unclear if those individuals were involved with this specific incident we're talking about. Eric Adams said police had spoken to a different woman on the pro-Palestinian side of the protest who suffered injuries after she was harassed by counter-protesters. Photos shared online showed that woman with blood streaming down her face. Let me be clear, none of this is acceptable. In fact, it is despicable. New York City will always be a place where people can peacefully protest, but we will not tolerate violence, trespassing, menacing, or threatening. Now, Cenk, you mentioned college campus protests earlier and the response to that. Is this a place where people can protest peacefully? And what do you make of this situation here?
Yeah, so first off, I'm gonna say the same thing that I say when it is Muslim fundamentalists that do anything wrong, or right-wing fundamentalists do anything wrong. Do not judge all Orthodox Jews by the actions of these few folks. And the synagogue involved there actually condemn what happened. So that's good. We appreciate that, and that's cooler heads prevailing. Now, should there be consequences, especially for the person who threw the object at her and then people who threatened to rape her, etc.? Of course there should. Will there be legal consequences for that? So why do I say maybe, maybe not? Because this is so egregious. Even Eric Adams, who will do anything for donors, is saying, oh, it's despicable and it shouldn't happen. Look, to be fair, I have no idea if or any member of that community donated to Eric Adams or anyone else, right? But he's not a guy that normally is animated about this. He's usually animated about if you ever criticize Israel. So I'm just taking his track record on this, okay? So this is so egregious, you would think that there would be action taken on it. But look at what the cops' reaction was. You see that mob, and she's reporting, that woman is reporting that, yeah, before that one lady cop came, she's looking at the cops like, are you gonna help me? And the cops are looking away. What is this? What is this? I mean, what got into those cops' heads that they thought, well, if this group is attacking that single woman, I shouldn't do anything to help her? I don't know, but they should be asked that question by their supervisors. So, because that was unacceptable what happened there. And it would always be unacceptable, no matter what different race, religion, political group that those different groups are representing. No matter who's on which side. Please, can we have fair and equal laws that apply to everyone? It's not too much to ask for. And so this idea that, oh my God, the peace protesters are the violent ones, or the ones that harass other people. You know, in Colombia, somebody ran over protesters. Well, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it was pro-Israeli guy who did that. There's another pro-Israeli guy who ran over somebody or shot at someone in Miami because they thought he was a Palestinian. It turns out they were Israeli, or they were Jewish. I forget if it was Israeli or Jewish that they shot at. And so I think it was an Israeli family. So and then at UCLA, massive violence. And which side was it? The pro-Israeli side. So now you have seen with your own eyes, we've shown you the video, and in other cases we reported several different times where you see the pro-Israeli side do significant violence, harassment, etc. And yet no congressional hearings, no universities being shut down, no one being kidnapped off the streets. And by the way, would I want it to be done in reverse? That if you criticize Palestine or you applaud Israel, that you should be kidnapped by masked men representing the American government and arrested and deported and put into prisons in Louisiana, etc. Of course not, of course not. We need to have freedom of speech in this country. We need to be able to believe anything we want and not be harassed by either the government or mobs of angry individuals. So I hope that they take action. Do I have strong belief that they will? No, I don't have a strong belief that they will. And so, look, I'll tell you the story, Jordan, that happened to me. And you don't need this story to be outraged by it, right? But I just happen to have a personal situation that was very similar to this. So I had enormous sympathy and empathy for her. So when I was down in Miami, Elian Gonzalez was there at the time, if you remember, around 2000, right? He's a little boy from Cuba, and his dad was in Cuba and wanted him back. His mom had died coming over here. And all of Little Havana was folks who had come over from Cuba originally, and they were all around his house. And I thought that there was a counter protest to send Elian home. And even though back then I was a Republican, I thought, well, it doesn't make sense. His dad wants him back home. We got to send him back home. You can't just keep him from his dad. So I go down there thinking that there was a counter protest. There was no counter protest. I was the only one, okay? And what happened was an angry mob just like that of about at least 100 people attacked me at once. And there's nothing quite as terrifying as that, right? For some of you who are members and you've heard me tell the story in bonus episodes, etc. before, you know there's a part of the story that's funny that didn't happen here, right? But actually, if you're a woman or anyone really, you might not have found it funny if you were in my situation. So they attacked me, they ripped my sign, they start ripping my shirt, and just like her, one cop showed up and started escorting me to a car. And another cop then came in and said, hey, he didn't do anything wrong. We shouldn't put him in the police car. It'll look like he's getting arrested. And me and the cop were like, let's go. Because at that point, people are punching me in the back of the head, kicking me, punching me. And then the comical part was some guy kept pinching me in the butt from behind. It was so crazy. It was a madhouse, right? But before that crazy part, which was to me slightly amusing, probably wouldn't be to anyone else, I was afraid for my life, right? And so when I think about her, a woman in that situation, and all of a sudden you got this angry mob coming up on her and attacking her and threatening to rape her. Oh my God, the terror she must have had. And what are we fighting? We're fighting against terrorism, right? And that was nothing but terror there. Jordan, imagine not only being in that situation yourself, but imagine it's someone you love and care for a woman in your life in a situation like that, and you saw the video later, how enraged would you be?
Oh, I would lose my mind. And I would be furious with the police who stood idly by, as this woman talked about. Like, we know, unfortunately, that the NYPD is fully capable of responding if there are crowds or protests or demonstrators, whatever, on an issue that they don't approve of, that is powerless. I mean, here we're seeing a politically powerful movement and ideology. Just at the onset of this incident, the police turned a blind eye to it. But I think back to 2020 and the George Floyd uprising, how violent NYPD was. And I'm not saying the solution should have been violence, but if they want to, they will break up groups of people. So like, we know they can do that. But when it comes to a group of people who have political power, who are not representing the marginalized here, it seems like time and time again, they turn a blind eye to it. That's the role of police in modern society. It is protecting powerful interests. That's it. They're not out there to protect and serve you, the individual. And you see that here. Eventually, luckily, he finally intervened and got her there safely. But she never should have had to endure any of that. It's unfortunate that you were in that circumstance in the early 2000s. It's unfortunate that she was in that circumstance. And sadly, there are many instances where police will just turn a blind eye to other similar circumstances, and that should not be the case.
Yeah, last two things here. The guy threw a cone at her, and the first shot guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot had thrown a plastic bag with an empty plastic bottle in it at him, and he turned around, shot him, and killed him. Right? So apparently, and he was acquitted. So apparently that was enough. My point here is, look, I don't want her doing that. I don't want anybody doing that. And that's why I was super mad at Rittenhouse for, in his case, he went and provoked things and he had a weapon and brandished it, et cetera, in my opinion. And she was just walking by. She was just walking by. But they did things that were severe enough that a jury in this country said, if that was done to you, you're allowed to kill that other person. And I thank God none of that happened here. But my point is, this is getting out of hand. This is crazy. And the reason it's getting out of hand is there's no balance at all. We're not treating people fairly or equally at all. One side gets all of the advantages and privileges, the other side gets nothing, and she's not even on a side, right? So if they don't at this point take action, look, we asked the poll in the live chat, do you think they're gonna take significant action? I'd probably vote for C, which is some mild punishment is probably the only thing that'll happen. You guys are voting for no, nothing will happen. But the very fact that that's our expectation is damning, that our government is not fair and equal, that there's one country that they value above all others. And if you're protesting that country, you're in a world of trouble, right? But if you're crazed on the side of that country and you attack someone, will there be, at UCLA, it took them so long to arrest only one guy out of so many people that attacked and did assaults. We asked and asked and asked to get one or just one arrest for obvious assault with their faces wide open. Well, I don't know. But when you send a sign that violence is okay from one side, that is a super dangerous sign to send. So, and you're seeing the consequence of that. And finally, the original protesters, not her, were protesting Itamar Ben-Gvir. He is a literal terrorist. He was adjudicated not even by international criminal courts, by Israeli courts as aiding and abetting terrorism. Now he's their security minister, and he's terrorizing the West Bank, Gaza Strip. He's one of the most awful government leaders in the whole world. He's one of the worst terrorists in the world, constantly talking about how they have to ethnically cleanse Gaza, wipe out all the Palestinians from Gaza, and take Gaza. And that's the guy that these people were celebrating. They were in ecstatic joy over what the damage of the violence that he has done to Palestinian families. So is it surprising that the people who were celebrating that monster would then attack an innocent woman like this on the streets of America? No, not acceptable. If there aren't legal consequences, people are going to get the message that vigilante violence is acceptable against any Americans as long as you claim you're pro-Israel. And that is a super dangerous message. They must not allow that to happen in New York.
Get into our last story, but conversation you had between with Charlamagne the God. Take a look at this.
I think it's ridiculous even when they try to say things, all these conversations about oligarchy. Now Bernie and AOC, they can go out there and say fight the oligarchy.
Yes.
Hakeem Jeffries, you can't say that. Okay, like cut it out. We know that you've taken so much money from corporate donors. So it's just weird to see them, push back against oligarchy now and say, look at the billionaires controlling Trump. It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean,
you, Hakeem, really? Chuck Schumer, really?
Last week, Cenk went on the Breakfast Club to talk about Rebellion PAC. And as you just saw, Cenk and Charlamagne the God discussed the topic of corporate Democrats. Now, Cenk, here in the Young Turks, we'll call out both sides of the aisle for corruption. But how has the media been portraying that exchange that we just saw?
Yeah, so look, this is a super interesting phenomenon because we do a 42-minute interview. It's great. It's about Rebellion PAC. We call it Democrats that are too corporate and too establishment, et cetera. We call out Republicans. We call out Trump. We call out everyone that's doing wrong, and we give a positive solution, which is, hey, why don't we do populism right? Economic populism, the core 6 issues that are the populist plank on that are on TYT, Rebellion PAC, et cetera. And Charlamagne loves it. We even talk about being on the advisory board, et cetera. So and we talk about Jon Stewart might run for president. Ro Khanna might, look, we want him to run, let's be more accurate about it. Ro Khanna would be amazing in that light, and he's joining Rebellion PAC. But the press doesn't talk about any of that. Fox News sees a 30-second clip where we're criticizing Democrats. They put that up because right-wing media is constantly looking for criticism of Democrats to highlight. Now, but what's interesting, Jordan, is not just that they do that, but the other 2 things that happen. One is, once right-wing media covers something, then mainstream media will cover it. If left-wing media covers something, mainstream media has no interest in it, none, zero. Won't ever cover it. We launched Rebellion PAC, haven't gotten a single article yet. It's amazing. We've got these amazing candidates. We've got sitting congressmen all over media. People are abuzz about it. I'm in DC, and senators are telling me, oh, I heard about it. It's interesting. Other congressmen are thinking of joining, but mainstream media, absolutely silent. Why? Because it came from the left. But the minute the Fox News did a segment on a 30-second part of that interview, then all of a sudden mainstream media start covering it. It's so frustrating, right? And there's also nothing in reverse where someone sees, something positive about the left wing and then they create an echo chamber around that. God forbid, no. So that never happens. So that's why what you see in media is so skewed and often comes from a right-wing perspective. Does that make sense, Jordan?
It does, and we've got more of that Breakfast Club appearance to cover. But first, here's a look at how Jeffries and Schumer talk about the Trump administration. Take a look.
Today began the long budget process, and it became very clear what the #1 goal of the Republicans is: to give their billionaire buddies a tax break and have it be on your back. We Senate Democrats are going to expose them. We're going to lift up the curtain and show that everything else they do is to help hide the fact that their billionaire buddies are going to get a tax break under their proposal.
They've already taken so many different reckless votes as it relates to the budget resolution that initially passed in the House. That's the largest Medicaid cut in American history. Now they're trying to dismantle Social Security, undermining veterans' benefits, literally trying to take food out of the mouths of babies by cutting nutritional assistance. And what is this all being done for? To enact a massive tax break for billionaire donors like Elon Musk. The whole thing is a Ponzi scheme.
Now, Jeffries and Schumer would know a thing or two about billionaire buddies, as Cenk and Charlamagne talked about on the Breakfast Club. Here's the clip.
These donors run the whole place and we know it. So if you're a Democrat, don't tell me the donors don't run the place. You know what Hakeem Jeffries was just doing? We just reported on the Young Turks. He just collected $1.2 million, went over to the bankers. Like one of them had to pay a $6 million fine for ripping people off. Another one had to pay like some gigantic, like $60 or $600 million fine because he ripped people off. And he's like, no, it's all good. I got money from corporations. No, it's not all good. I don't want that money. That money's toxic. Chuck Schumer talking about billionaire buddies. He's like doing talking points like, oh, Republicans and their billionaire buddies. Hey, brother, come on, man. How many billionaire buddies do you have?
Exactly.
Right?
And here is how Fox News Digital framed that conversation. Here's their headline. Charlamagne tells Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, to cut it out over hypocritical oligarchy concerns. The piece makes no mention of any Republican politicians who take money from big donors. But both sides are corrupt. Of course, we know this, and the American people are deeply unhappy with their leaders in Congress. New polling found that they're all underwater. 32% of respondents in a CNN poll said they had an unfavorable opinion of House Speaker Mike Johnson, while 23% said they viewed him as favorably. 27% of respondents had an unfavorable opinion of Jeffries, to 20% who rated him favorably. Senate Majority Leader John Thune polled at 26% unfavorable to 16% favorable. And 44% of respondents said they had an unfavorable opinion of Schumer, while 19% said they viewed him favorably. Those percentages don't add up to 100% because many respondents had never heard of these people or had no opinion. But Cenk, of the people who do know who they are, it seems like a majority of Americans across the board don't like the leadership in Congress in either side.
Yeah, there's this trippy thing going on where in the media, you have to be binary. You know, you either have to hate Trump and love every Democrat, otherwise you're a traitor, or you have to love Trump and hate every Democrat, otherwise you're a traitor. That's what you see in social media and media almost across the board, right? But when you actually ask the American people are like, no, really, I can't stand the corruption on either side. And no, I don't like Democratic leadership, but hey, guess what? I don't like Republican leadership. So I'm with the majority of Americans. And so look, we asked like on the live chat poll, who's more corrupt in their leadership? You know, Democrats, Republicans, or both equally corrupt? And equally corrupt is winning. Look, I would argue these days Republicans are a little bit more corrupt because Trump is adding personal corruption on top of the systemic corruption. Oh yeah, give money to my meme coin, to my media company, to my campaign, and I'll get rid of white collar criminal charges against you, fraud, etc. We've shown you he's done that now a great number of times, over and over again. People charged with fraud where they give money to him, and he's like, oh, double the fraud, great, now you can go free. So that's layered on top of the systemic corruption. But when the partisans on both sides claim that their side is spick and span, totally clean. No, I know Mitch McConnell takes $1 billion, but he doesn't deliver for the donors. Oh, only Nancy Pelosi does. Or Nancy Pelosi's an angel. She takes $1 billion, but it doesn't corrupt her at all. It only corrupts Mitch McConnell. Now Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. No, it's absurd. Okay. Jordan, for 23 years on this show, we have been trying to get Americans to see they're all taking the corporate money, they're all taking the donor money, and they're serving those donors. And the media has blocked us and blocked us and blocked us. And oh, that's a conspiracy theory that billions of dollars would affect honorable politicians. I mean, on which planet do mainstream media reporters live? So, I mean, if you look at that clip, you criticize Charlamagne or myself, etc., for saying, how dare you? You should only criticize Republicans, and Democrats are all angels. When Hakeem Jeffries goes and begs Silicon Valley tech guys for money, and he goes to Wall Street and begs the bankers for money, he would never do anything they want. You're really on a different planet, guys, super different. And if you're a Republican, you're rejoicing over us telling that truth, and you think your guys are clean, you think Trump is clean. No, we gotta get to a place, man, where we talk about truth and we talk about honesty and not this blind, ridiculous, indefensible partisanship. Jordan, last word to you.
Yeah. It's frustrating. And I mean, the Fox headline and framing is hilarious because they all know that Elon Musk largely funded Trump's campaign, and now he is in a position in this government to cut all of these programs. I mean, that's what Hakeem Jeffries was talking about. That's what Schumer was talking about. But they're just going to look right past that because they want to zero in on Democrats because they're just a messaging arm for the right. And I appreciate TYT is just like I appreciate other progressive and independent outlets who will call out this type of corruption on both sides because that's what we need if we really want to get rid of this problem. And you see some bubbling up on the right. Some people are starting to turn away from corporate and PAC donations. Some people are trying to run small dollar campaigns. And while I don't agree with their politics, I'm glad they're doing that. We need all politicians to do that. I think in the long run, we would see better policy outcomes if all politicians are relying on small dollar donations, because then they're in the pocket of Nana and Peepaw and their $20 donations rather than ExxonMobil, Wells Fargo, and all these other Fortune 500 companies that are just buying and selling these politicians.
Yep. All right, we got to take a break here. And by the way, God bless Charlamagne. I love how independent thinking he is. Now, when we come back, the devastating poll against Trump that I've been telling you about, and I mean, you want to talk about broken clock. Alex Jones defying and criticizing Trump. What did he do it on? It's shocking. We'll do that in the next hour.